guys, big breaking news coming out. New SNAP restriction go into place amid shutdown drama. Now, The Hill is putting out this information, very important news. Do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell. New supplemental nutrition assistance program rules are going into effect today, November 1st, Saturday, even as benefits will already not be issued through November without federal funding due to the Gov shutdown. The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA website, where millions of Americans can review their options and apply, details how well has run dry to issue program benefits. Atop the page, the USDA blames the blue for benefits not being issued starting Saturday. So give me a second here, guys. I want to take you to the USDA website. This is where people go to apply for the assistance. Ooh. Oh man, they got it on the very top. Oh man, on the very top of the web page. So if you put USDA .gov, it would take you to their main page, the USDA, and it says here, look at this, guys. They have it highlighted and everything. Senate, the blue, the left, have now voted 13 times to not fund the food program, the food stamp program, so also known as the SNAP. Bottom line, the well has run dry. At this time, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We are approaching an inflection point for the left. Again, the blue. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal and other issues, or reopen the Gov so mothers, young ones, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance. So this been, I guess they put it a few days ago, but this is my first time coming into this website, and once you click on the link, it would take you straight to this website, and the first thing you're going to see is that all this here. So they're blaming the left. They're not blaming the president. They're not pointing fingers at the president. They're pointing finger at Chuck and the left. All right, guys, before I start, for those of you that want to send us letters or prayer requests, you can send it to me, US Santiago, or my wife, Jessica Santiago, at 3432 US Highway 19, number 2, Holiday, Florida, 34691. So what's next? What's next? Once again, man, you got the neighbors blasting their music. So Senate, the blue, have now voted 13 times to not fund the food stamp program, also known as the SNAP. The page reads, at this time, there will be no benefits November 1st. Now, a lot of people woke up this morning and, yeah, they don't have it. They don't have it. Now, guys, pay attention to this right here, right? So USDA is really calling out the blue. So USDA is calling out the blue. They're the one who shut it down 13 times, right? So USDA said the blue, they can continue to hold out for health care for illegal. Man. And you know what? Wow. Procedures. Oh man, that's brutal. Or reopen the Gov so mothers, young ones, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition. Okay? Again, the USDA is basically putting out their message. They're saying it's not Donald's fault. It's the left. While SNAP benefits will not be issued until funding continues, the President One Big Beautiful Bill Act also places new restrictions into effect starting Saturday, today. These changes are expected to push some people out of the program after an estimated $186 billion federal spending cut over the next decade. Able-bodied adults without dependents could see the biggest change in needing to prove they work at least 80 hours a month, are pursuing an education, or are in a training program to remain qualified for SNAP. Should they not have proof, they will receive SNAP benefits for a total of 3 months maximum. Additionally, it says here, any able adult under 65 must prove they are working to continue receiving benefits. Under 65. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I can't believe that number reached way up there to 65. I mean, again, 60, yes. But 65, I mean, 65, a lot of people many people, to be honest, don't live way up there. 65, man, that's almost 70. All right, so those under 65 must prove they are working to continue receiving benefits. Once again, parents with dependents under 14 are now exempt from the work requirements, whereas before it applied to parents with dependents under 18 years old. Young adult, veterans, and homeless people must now meet work requirement to receive over 3 months of benefits. So what's going on here? Donald is trying to get everybody back to work. Get into the workforce. You have to work. If you want to get this benefit, work 18 hours or something. You know, you have to put in work. You have to work. And when people work, again, some taxes taken out. A lot of that taxes go back to this program, I guess. But look, here's the thing, is that, and I'm not trying to start anything here, but a lot of sleeping giants are becoming lazy. Again, you know, God command men to work. To work. Again, did God collect food stamp? Man, I created the ocean and the sun. I'm good. You know, I shouldn't be creating. I should be collecting EBT. I'm done. No, God didn't say all that. He worked. And on the 7th day, he rested. Men should work on the 7-day rest. Another change in effect will impact non-citizen eligibility for SNAP. So that's another issue too. Donald is trying to get all those that's collecting, those that came into the sleeping giant illegally. You guys don't get it. You guys don't get this. You guys don't put in to receive this assistance. If they want something, their country, their leaders have to send money to the sleeping giant. Pay your child support. Your people came here. These are your people. You pay child support. Once again, another change in effect will impact non-citizens for SNAP, for including non-citizens, you know who, U.S. nationals, lawful permanent residents, Cuban and Haitian entrants, and those who are undocumented, you know what. Those programs were meant for sleeping giant citizens. For sleeping giant citizens. But we have Looney Tunes that were running our sleeping giant country who are lawlessness and gave all our stuff to millions that came into the sleeping giant illegally. And it's really messed up because you have veterans only getting $8 a month or $12 a month in EBT. Meanwhile, those that came into the sleeping giant legally are getting hundreds. It's just wrong. You shouldn't do that. It's a slap to the face. State agency will have to review household circumstances to take appropriate actions during an immigrant certification for benefits period before notifying that individual that they are no longer eligible for SNAP, according to the USDA website. Well, there's going to be a lot of changes. What are your thoughts, guys? Again, should these individuals that came into our sleeping giant illegally, should they receive these benefits? Leave comments down below. And if that's the case, if they receive the benefits, we, Sleeping Giant citizens, should get a cut, should get something out of all this. We are taking care of the world. We are taking care of millions that came into our Sleeping Giant. You know, when you file your taxes, do you have any dependents? I take care of my cousin, young one. He lives with me and stuff like that. I put food on the table. Okay, so you get $2,500. Wow, that's great. Again, that's called when it comes to having dependents, you're taking care of someone in the house, a young one. We should have something like that for taking care of the world. We should get tax break or something. Nope, we don't get none of that. We get punished for it. So, refuge granted asylum, and I'm just gonna highlight these. I can't say these names. Again, survivors, meanwhile, will lose their benefits according to a memo from the Oregon's Department. Again, here's the thing, guys. Another reason. Look, I feel bad for those who survive from stuff like this. I do, and I pray for them. But their country, their leaders have to step up. They have to step up. And here's another thing too. All right, we have to think about our debt. All right, we are in. The Sleeping Giant is in big trouble. We could lose our Sleeping Giant country. The Sleeping Giant system could collapse. It could snap at any moment. Sleeping Giant needs to fix all this problem. And it's not good. It's not looking good. What remains an issue is if the USDA will use its contingency funding to allow SNAP benefits to be paid for through November. On Friday, a federal judge blocked the U.S. Command Administration from cutting off SNAP benefits. Sleeping Giant District Judge John rejected the argument that emergency funding can only be used for those impacted by natural disaster. And that's true. Guys, I know I keep repeating myself, but I have to because we're getting a lot of new people. These funds, backup funds, were meant for natural disaster, catastrophic events. All right. If we get hit with storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, a wildfire, or earthquake or volcano, whatever, we need funds to again repair homes and insurance and FEMA and all that type of. We need funds. The blue is saying no, we could take that and give it to the 42 million. It doesn't work that way, man. No wonder why North Carolina had no fund. They were all broke. They took all the money from natural disaster and gave it to the millions that came to the Sleeping Giant. Remember last year, North Carolina got hit, the hurricane, and FEMA was there. We don't got money. We're just going to stand around, but we don't got money. Why? Because Joe gave it to the millions. Actually, I think it was former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro. I think he gave it to the, who, millions that came in. SNAP benefits have never, until now, been terminated, McConnell said at a hearing. And the Sleeping Giant has, in fact, admitted that the contingency funds are appropriately used during a shutdown, and that occurred in 2019. Man, so what are your thoughts, guys? There is around $5.25 billion reserved to cover the program in November, but it does not fully cover the $9.2 billion that the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke, has said the federal government would have to spend for the program. On Friday, Rollins told reporters that if the left were wrong in suggesting that contingency fund could be used. If today, say, for example, the left say, oh, never mind, sorry, we reopen the gov, and SNAP flows. Hurricane Melissa, or one of the hurricane hits, that's the contingency fund that we would use to send more money into vulnerable communities that are harmed by a specific event, like a hurricane. Do you understand now? Do you understand why we can't use the funds? We need it. Will you use your saving fund, the money to pay rent? Will you use that to go blow it on going to the club and drinking and spending it on other people? Will you do that? Would you? No, because you need to think about paying the rent. You have young ones. You shouldn't be going to the club anyway. You have young ones. You need to use that money to pay the rent. If you don't pay the rent, the landlord's going to knock on your door. Rent money. Rent money, well, I use it to go to the club. Can't do that. You owe me rent. And then you are pretty in a tough spot. And then comes the eviction. And then comes rock bottom. And then you have an eviction on your record for life. It never comes off. It says here, but it is a contingency fund that can only flow if the underlying appropriation is approved to continue. And listen, even if it could flow, it doesn't even cover half of the month of November. So here we are again in 2 weeks having the exact same conversation. So even though they have the $5.something billion, it's not enough to feed 42 million. So I don't know why the Blue are really trying to release the funds. Well, they want Donald to release the fund. Later on Friday, the U.S. commander indicated that he would fund SNAP, but noted that they would be delayed for the month of November. Our Gov lawyers do not think we have the legal authority to pay SNAP with certain monies we have available, and now 2 courts have issued conflicting opinions of what we can and cannot do, U.S. commander posted on Truth Social. Here's the last one. I do not want Americans to go hungry just because the Blue refused to do the right thing and reopen the Gov. He continued, therefore, I have instructed our lawyers to ask the court to clarify how we can legally fund SNAP as soon as possible. And that's where we are right now, guys. So they're going to try to figure something out. This is just a complete mess. Donald has all these lawyers right now, and they're trying to figure out how to open the Gov without asking Chuck, because Chuck keeps shutting it down. Chuck continued to shut it down over and over and over for the 13th time. All right, so I will keep you updated on this news here, guys. And once again, it's not only the SNAP EBT, but also federal workers. And then you have the flight delays. Chuck, what are you doing? Open the Gov. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Till next time later. Peace.